This has to end.
Arcane, the show that Riot spent $250 million on, topped Netflix's charts in 60 plus countries, and might just change the way everybody sees animation. But the reason why isn't what you're expecting. See, Arcane's writing is incredible in many ways, rivaling some of the best pieces of fiction ever. But I would say the real highlight is in how they write their antagonists. Villains are characters that can simultaneously make or break a story. In a world where stories advance through conflict, the source of that conflict is so ridiculously important to the entire show's quality. The writers knew that and devised some of the best antagonists in all of media. Note that I'm using the word antagonist, not villain, because Arcane doesn't actually have villains, and their antagonists act much more like the heroes of these stories, and that's what makes them so great. For many, Silco is one of the best antagonists in recent history. From the moment he steps onto the screen, he's framed as a tyrant, a ruthless leader who will stop at nothing to achieve his goals. But behind that facade, there's so much more to the character that ends up humanizing him. He's not just a ruthless tyrant, he's a driven visionary that wants the freedom of his people, of Zaun. Betrayed by his brother, his pain pushed him to stop at nothing for his goals. When we frame things like this, it's much easier to see the gray morality of it all. And that's something Arcane perfects in its character writing. Victor in Season 2 is a bad person, right? Of course, I mean, he wants to basically eliminate all of humanity. Or does he?
I thought I could bring an end to the world's suffering.
Spoiler alert, but in the last episode of the season, we in fact see that Victor knows he made a mistake. He lived out his reality and saw what it led to, but his intention was good. That's why he helps open Jace's eyes so he can end the past Victor. All Victor truly wanted was to advance humanity through the use of the arcane and help people. That's what makes a great villain. When their motivations are rational, it can be understood by any one of us. Thanos was a horrendous antagonist, but his goal of wiping out half of the universe so that there's more resources for everyone makes rational sense. The goal is amazing, it's the means that often separate the heroes from the villains. But in Arcane, villains don't see themselves as villains. Silco truly believes he's a savior. His bond with Jinx is proof of this. For all his ruthlessness, Silco treats Jinx like a daughter. He nurtures her, protects her, and gives her the sense of belonging she never had. His decision to prioritize her over Zaun's independence in his final moments is the ultimate act of love. Some would even say heroic.
I never would have given you to them. Not for anything.
That's not what villains are supposed to do, right? Take Thanos sacrificing Gamora for the Soul Stone. And yet when Silco dies, not everyone was cheering. We mourned the complex, brilliant antagonist we had come to care about. Even Victor's arc has shades of heroism. He doesn't want power for its own sake, he wants to change the world for the better. But when the cost becomes too great, when it demands lives, his moral compass falters, clearly. Even so, we still sympathize, or at least I still sympathize with Victor because I see the idealistic boy he once was, and the sacrifices he's making for what he believes is a better future. Singed is even more ridiculously heroic. I mean, it gets revealed in Season 2 that the entire reason for all his experiments are for one sole purpose: love. All he wants is to be able to save his daughter. You cannot tell me that is not the most heroic shit ever. And their heroism makes sense too. One of Arcane's biggest strengths is that its villains don't wake up and choose evil. They're shaped by circumstances, trauma, and belief systems. Arcane shows us what led them to be who they are today, giving the antagonists way more depth and making them ridiculously more interesting than if we had no context. Jinx is a perfect example of this. Her descent into absolute chaos isn't random, it comes from trauma and loss. Powder's transformation into Jinx starts the moment she believes she's been abandoned by Vi, the only person left, right after the accidental murder of everyone she loves. Add to that Silco's influence, who manipulates her pain into loyalty, and it's no wonder Jinx becomes the volatile, unpredictable force we see. She isn't driven by power or control, she's driven by a desperate need to belong, and as the series progresses, we continuously see just how fragile she really is beneath all the chaos. Silco, on the other hand, is driven by a vision of Zaun's independence. His goals are political, but his methods are deeply personal, rooted in his betrayal by Vander. For him, Jinx isn't just a weapon, she's proof that his method works, that he can take broken things and make them stronger. It shows him he can fix Zaun as well, catapulting it to the mighty society he dreams of. Even Ambessa, a more minor antagonist compared to the others, isn't evil for the sake of it. Her decisions are political, tied to her duty to Piltover and her family's legacy. She manipulates and schemes, but her goals align with survival and control in a world she considers extremely dangerous. The fear of losing her children and her legacy morphs into an insatiable lust for control, and with Ambessa's background, skills, and status, it's a pretty deadly-ass combination. Once again, her rationale is logical. It makes sense, especially given everything that's happened in her feud with the Black Rose. Losing a child would drive us all to make drastic decisions, let's be honest. She does also have a lust for power. Everything isn't just rooted in wholesome motivations, that's for damn sure, and her character definitely just didn't get enough screen time to be properly fleshed out, which is tied to pacing being an issue as a whole in season 2. Despite that, a villain without meaningful relationships can feel hollow, but Arcane ensures that every antagonist is shaped by their connections, much like the heroes tend to be as well. Jinx and Vi's relationship is the emotional core of the whole story. Estranged siblings that still very much love each other, Jinx's actions, from sabotaging Piltover's operations to her explosive showdown in the finale of season 1, all come from feeling completely betrayed and abandoned, mixed in with the guilt of her past actions. When Jinx asks Vi,
"Are we still sisters?"
it's obvious that beneath all the chaos, Jinx is still just Powder, the scared little girl longing for her sister's love. Also, the love we see between Jinx and Echo in the alternate universe adds so much to the rest of the show. Even if it's not the type of relationship we see in the original timeline, just knowing the potential is there gives me goosebumps whenever I see them together, and adds more layers to their dynamic. Not to mention how Vi and Caitlyn's relationship strains the sisters' relationship. There's clearly so much nuance and real emotional depth to the relationships in the show. Silco's relationship with Jinx is equally complex and probably my favorite of the whole show in how interesting it is. He doesn't just see her as a tool, he truly cares for her, obviously. This becomes clear when he refuses to give her up to Piltover, even at the cost of Zaun's independence, the one thing Silco has strived for his entire life. Silco's love for Jinx is definitely flawed and manipulative, but it's real, and it adds layers to his character. His relationship with Vander is just as complicated, and even though we only really see them interact in the first act, it's brought up throughout the entire show, and continues to affect Silco time and time again. The fact that they were like brothers with the same vision, and the fact that you can see the care for each other still present behind their words and actions, adds so much nuance to both their characters. One chose light, one chose dark, but depending on the perspective, which is which can be debated. Victor's relationship with Jace also mirrors this complexity. The two start as partners and friends united by a shared vision of progress, but as Victor's methods grow darker, their relationship obviously fractures. Victor's sense of betrayal when Jace distances himself makes us question who the real villain is. The man desperate to survive and help humanity thrive, or the man unwilling to make sacrifices for progress. But let's not forget, these characters, for all their depth and humanity, are still terrifyingly villainous. Both the antagonists and the protagonists. Arcane doesn't cower away from showing us just how dangerous and ruthless everybody can be. It's this duality for the villains, the ability to make us understand them while still fearing them, that for me cements them as some of the best antagonists in all of fiction. Take Silco, for example. While his love for Jinx is undeniably genuine, he's still the man who orchestrates chaos in Piltover and Zaun. He's cunning, ruthless, and perfectly willing to sacrifice lives to secure his vision of independence. That chilling moment when he calmly says, "Power, real power, doesn't come to those who were born strongest or fastest or smartest. No, it comes to those who will do anything to achieve it," shows the depth of his resolve and his willingness to embrace the base violence necessary for change. Ambessa is similar in a way. As much as I love her power and command, she's a warlord who thrives on manipulation and bloodshed. Her presence alone is intimidating as fuck. Every word she says feels like a veiled threat. She said it herself. She'd set the world ablaze to protect her family, and that's what she tries to do at the end of season 2. Unyielding and pragmatic, even if it means sowing complete and utter destruction. But no one really compares to Jinx. She's one of the most tragic characters in Arcane, but make no mistake, she is terrifying. Her unpredictability and penchant for chaos keep everyone around her on edge, from her enemies to her allies and most of us watching too. I mean, that haunting dinner scene in the finale of season 1 is nuts. It just shows how far she had fallen, but also how dangerous she can be. Jinx is a walking storm, as devastating as she is heart-wrenching, which makes her arc throughout the second season all the more brilliant. These characters are more than just complex, they're terrifyingly effective at what they do. Silco's meticulous planning, Ambessa's strategic brilliance, and Jinx's chaotic power create a tapestry of villainy that feels raw and real. Arcane's antagonists prove that villains don't have to twirl their mustaches or have evil laughs to be unforgettable. Instead, they strike the perfect balance between being human, heroic, and absolutely chilling. And that's what makes them the best kind of villains. Ones who haunt us not just because of their evil deeds, but because they make us question whose side we're really on.